How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I just realized I didn't even introduce you. We just went right into this.
Have you gone to mass yet?
Yes, I
Oh.
cantered for the 9 a.m.
Oh, that's true. Okay, good segue.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about that.
All right.
Okay, so I remember when I met you, first of all, you were intimidating to me. Because I was like, she seems so holy. Like, I was like, must be so nice. And, like, obviously you're a cantor, but, like, I think one thing that, like, drew me to you is because you veil.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when I got to the center, like, a lot of people were like, starting to veil, and then you came in your first menu, and then you're veiling. And I was like, I don't know how people do that. Like, I feel like I don't want to do it because everyone is doing it. Like, I want to do it because I feel called to.
Yeah.
But, like, were you always veiling? Like, did you grow up doing it? Like, how?
No, not at all.
Okay.
So, I remember the first time I had interest in veiling was leading up to my confirmation.
Okay, and how old were you?
So let's see, that would have been. Oh, that's a good question. We'll go 13, 14. I
Okay.
feel like that's
Okay.
around the age.
Yeah.
And my sister was actually working at that time for the SSPX.
Okay.
And so just a lot of like, what is the Latin Mass? What and all these traditions was coming up and being discussed.
Right.
And so veiling had been brought up, and it like a couple people I would see them do it here or there. And so I know that was the first time where I was like, that'd be something that I would be interested in. And I remember I was shot down pretty quickly. It was like, well, you only want to do that because it's a visual thing.
Yeah.
And that you don't know what it means. And
Yeah.
I was like, this is true, but I want to know what it means.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until 2020 when the lockdown happened, and the only place where you could go to do a parking lot mass was the fraternity parish.
I can't even imagine.
Now, almost all, like everyone I knew had started going to the Latin Mass at this point. It was becoming much more of a discussion.
Right.
And I was so firmly placed in, like, I am not going to do this unless, like, Lord, you want me to do it, unless I'm being called to do that.
Yeah.
One of the best results of that is that every old lady is going to come up to you and explain to you the beauty of veiling.
Yeah.
And I remember it was especially my brother, who is now a monk up in Wyoming. He, I can't even remember what it was for, but he was talking to a bunch of just like a youth group event or something, and he was talking about the beauty in the difference between man and woman. Look back in creation, and as God creates, what he creates becomes more and more like unto himself. And the woman is the last thing he creates. She's the pinnacle of creation. She is most like God in the role she plays in bringing forth life into the world. Right. Bringing forth a being that is made in the image and likeness of God
and
with
can
an
produce
immortal
life.
soul.
Yeah.
Yes. And so if you walk into a church, what other object is always veiled? It's the tabernacle.
Abby? Jesus Christ, I've never thought about that.
And so the church has this tradition of veiling sacred objects.
This could be a whole podcast topic. Okay.
I was on a nun run with the fraternity group, and we had these two girls who you could tell pretty quick were like, how did you find us and how did you end up on this retreat? We were like, you are not fitting into any of the vibes. And I was talking to them, and it was hilarious. But at one point they pinned the poor priest that was leading us, and they're like, why do women have to dress nice for mass? Why are we supposed to veil? Why are we supposed to do like A, B, and C? And he was caught off guard, and I was explaining the tradition of veiling. Yeah. And he was like, well, now you're making it sound like women are better than men. I was like, Father, I'm trying to help you.
That's not what I'm doing. Yeah. That's good, though. I've never thought about it like that.
But so then I saw these traditions and how beautiful that this was. And it was during Holy Week one year where I was like, I feel the need to cover my head.
And that was 2020.
This would have been about 2020 to 2021.
Okay.
And so then it wasn't until I started going to KU that as I was praying and it was being brought to me again, the Lord was kind of just this gentle tug. I was like, okay, I'm at a place where nobody really knows me. Mm-hmm. So there is nobody here that I'm trying to impress. Like, I don't care what anybody here thinks. Yeah. So if I'm doing it here and I start here, then I know that I'm doing it. Right. Just for you. Yeah. Also, like, what is the Mass? Right. The Mass is the unbloody sacrifice of the cross. And what is that? That is God's final covenant between him and man that we can't break. Yeah. Because he sent his only son to really seal the deal. Right. So we can't mess this one up. And what is a covenant? It's a marriage. Yeah. And like every time that we go to Mass, we are entering in and we are, I remember Father Mitchell gave a great homily on this. It's like every time you receive communion, you're consummating your marriage. Yeah. And it's like, that is exactly what you're doing. I don't like that. I know. Yeah. Like, but it is. And I was like, it's true. And how else do I want to present myself before the Lord but as a bride? Right. And it just, veiling takes me right there. I'm like, why am I here? Yeah. What is this? Why am I doing this? That is so good. No, because like veiling, I remember one time seeing so many people start veiling. Mm-hmm. I was like, should I be doing this? Like, should I also do it? And there's a part of me that felt called to it, but I was just like, I don't want to do it because I feel like everyone is doing it. Because it's a trend now. Because everyone is like, all of a sudden, oh my God, the Latin Mass is better. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I've always like wanted to speak to people who veil constantly, like how they started. Because I know it's different for everyone, like, you know. And I know Megan like put a post on Instagram at some point just like talking about it. And I liked her explanation because she was like, I'm a bride of Christ and like all these things. And I like that. But when you say it like that, that's mind blowing. So the Latin Mass, because I know some Catholics are like the Latin Mass is better than you know, and then some people are like it doesn't matter as long as you're a Mass. Do you like do you have a preference going to the Latin Mass and saying like it has? I think it has more reference, and it pulls you back to tradition and how like it started and what we should be doing, whatever. But because it has so much tradition, like how do you think that relates to the Mass we go, like the ordinary Mass? Like, how? I guess my question is like, how do you find that balance? Because you have been to both, right? Yeah. And you're like, okay, the Latin Mass like obviously like impacted you in a way you're like, okay, veiling is important and all these things, but then also the ordinary Mass is like reverent, obviously. But how do you reconcile like that balance of like, you know, I can go to both and I'll be fine, or like they're both important? Yeah. You know, yeah. They both. The terminology that I like best to use is you have the ordinary form of the Mass and the extraordinary form of the Mass. Okay. And so the extraordinary form of the Mass is the Latin Mass. Yeah. And the ordinary is your English ordinary. Right. And so it's not that one of them is going to give you more graces. It is the same. It's like you're still at the unbloody sacrifice of the Mass. Yeah. But if you ever look at how much of the Latin Mass was taken out and like shortened, and that's how we got the vernacular Mass. It's kind of heartbreaking because you're like, there's so much beauty and like all these beautiful prayers. Yeah. I'm so against a mentality that says I dictate what the Mass should be. Like, I will always love the Latin Mass. Mm-hmm. Because, well, also growing up, I didn't even, it's funny, I don't know if you've ever read through the Baltimore Catechism, just the children's catechism, but that's what that was like our introduction to catechesis growing up, homeschooling. Mm-hmm. And I loved those so much because they had fun pictures. Yeah. And I would sit there and I would read those for fun. Okay. And it never quite, I would notice like, you know, the pictures in these don't really look like the Mass that I'm used to seeing. Interesting. And it the wasn't ordinary Mass? Yeah, because all these catechisms were pre-Vatican II. Gotcha. And so it wasn't until I started going to the Latin Mass regularly and learned how to use my missal. It was so funny. I remember the Mass where I was sitting there and I was like, oh my goodness, like, this is what I've studied my entire life.
Yeah.
And like, even just the writings of saints that I've read, listening to them talk about the Mass, I'm like, this is what they were talking about.
Yeah.
And just like all these lights start going on, you're like, oh my gosh, like, this is the Mass, like, I'm home. And
yeah,
I was like, this is, I love it. I love it so much. But that doesn't mean that I just hate the English ordinariate and it's just ugly and awful and there's nothing good. No, not at all. I have such a love and appreciation for both forms. It's something that comes to me in prayer a lot just because I work in sacred music.
Right.
And so when I get the opportunity to sing for a Latin Mass and to do like it's amazing. Yeah. And it just puts me back like, this is why I get up and do what I do every day.
Right.
To give glory to you. I laugh at the Lord. I'm like, you're probably going to have me work at the ordinary Mass my entire life.
That's funny.
And it's not that, like, that is a lesser thing at all. But there's a greater reverence that you see at the Latin Mass. But it's not really that they are any better educated on the Mass and the liturgy than people are going to the ordinary Mass. Yeah. And I know it was through the Mass that because I joined my first, a children's choir when I was 8 years old at Most Pure Heart of Mary. And it formed my faith in so many ways.
Yeah.
And it was because, like, that director, he didn't just teach me how to sing and how to read music. He taught me how to pray the Mass. And how to actively participate in it. And to recognize my role in the Mass.
Yeah.
And that is a gift that I want so badly to share.
Oh. So basically, you're in the right field.
Yes.
This is what you're meant to do. There's no questions about it. No, because I definitely... So joining the Scola and hearing chant more, even when I'm driving, made me realize that our faith, there's so many parts of our faith that we do not know. And we just go to ordinary Mass and they're like, yep, that's Mass. And but when you get to dive deeper into the tradition, to the Latin Mass, into where these things come from, why they're here, the music itself, the reverence that it brings out of you, it's so natural. It's we're made for this. We're made to be at the Mass, to worship God in that way. And so, speaking of sacred music, so you said you were in choir since 8 years old.
Yeah.
And you were singing up until from that point you were just let's keep moving.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense then, because some of us feel inferior when it comes to music. Okay. And so, what was the point where you're like, I love singing, I love music, I love doing this, but also I'm gonna do this for a living. I'm gonna go do sacred music at a secular university and represent God in that way. How did you get to that point where you were like, I love this and I'm also gonna pursue it as a career?
So it started when I was 16.
Okay.
And I went on a pilgrimage with a group of nuns to visit different convents in the East Coast.
Oh, that sounds so fun.
And it was, I'm still very good friends with one girl that went on that trip. And I keep in contact with a couple of the other girls. But one friend in particular, we're both it was a turning point in our lives. As far as okay, what does it actually mean?
Yeah.
To go forward and live our lives for Christ.
Yeah.
And for me, what that was I was going to Mass every single day at all these different parishes. And I was like, okay, Lord, I've heard some great homilies. I've heard some awful homilies. I'm like, I could live the rest of my life with bad priests. Not I don't want to undervalue the role of the priesthood because I've been extremely blessed in my life to know so many wonderful priests who are striving to live out and not only live out their priesthood but just to be saints and spiritual fathers.
Right.
And but I was like, I think that would not be detrimental to be stuck at a parish where the priest was not the best.
Yeah.
but I was like, if I have to spend the rest of my life listening to ugly music and get, like, absolutely not.
Can't do it.
I cannot do that.
Yeah.
And so I got home and I texted my choir director. I was like, can you start giving me organ lessons? And so but that was kind of just like a in my back pocket thing. Okay. Where I was like, no matter what I do in life, this can be helpful to me.
For sure, yeah. It's a good skill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't too intense with learning organ at that point. Like I practiced, but it wasn't until Ash Wednesday. So would be Ash Wednesday of 2020.
Okay.
When my choir director sat me down and he was like, okay, like you are learning, like you're getting better. And he's like, but you know, if you ever wanted to like major in this, you would probably, there's no way that you could have a piece ready for auditioning in a year. Because at this point I was a junior.
In high school?
In high school, yeah. And he's like, so you would have to take a gap year after high school.
Oh,
just to take a year
to
practice and build up skills if you wanted to study this at KU.
Yeah.
And I remember I looked at him and I was like, there's no way I am going to spend another year.
Another year waiting? Like, yeah.
And I was like, especially when we're already looking at 1 year where I'm like, oh, I've got 2 years. I'm like, I would also not work at all. I'm like, oh, I have 2 years to get this figured out. Yeah. And I was like, also, there's no way. I was like, my parents don't want me at home for another year.
Yeah.
Like, I'm number 5 of 8.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta get up, move out, start your life. And he looked at me and he's like, oh, talk to your mom about it. And I said, no, you can talk to my dad.
Okay.
And my dad is a big, angry German dad. Who, you know, you get, like, to me, he's a teddy bear.
Right. Yeah.
Because then I went home and I brought it up with my mom. And I just talked to her about it. And she's like, well, you know, we wouldn't really care if you spent another year at home. And I was like, yes, but I was like,
I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to get stuck. I want to keep this forward momentum to my life. And I was driving to work, and I was just, like, sorting it out, like, kind of figuring out the schedule in my mind. And all of a sudden, it kind of just hit me. I was like, this was not on the table before. Like, I was pretty sure I was going to either go into nursing or to study literature or classics.
Okay. I literally cannot see you doing anything different, though.
I know.
I'm like, secular music is so you. Like, I can't see you do anything else, literally.
And it's also funny because at this point, like, I've been in choir for so long that, like, we'd have new kids come in and the director would just be like, okay, Abby, can you teach them how to count? Can you teach them what a quarter note is? And just to do the basics of music theory with them. Yeah. And then even then, like, helping, like, okay, this person is struggling with this. Like, they're not really matching pitch. Go experiment with them in the other room and see if you can help them. And and I loved it so much. But in my mind, there was always like, well, because my sister got her master's at Notre Dame in organ, and she's just an amazing organist. Yeah. And so I was like, that's her thing.
That's not mine.
Yeah. I'm like, I gotta go do something else. I have to do, like, I can't do the same thing as one of my other siblings, like 4 siblings. Yeah. Like, that's boring.
That's funny. Yeah.
But I loved it so much. And I just also love teaching kids. I taught CCD for 3 years. Oh, I love it so much. Yeah. But I was like, I could never be good enough to do this. Like, I still make all the mistakes when I sing. Like, I have all the, like, A, B, and C's wrong. And you know, you can look at me and be like, oh, can you just sing this descant real quick? And I can have sung it for all my life, and I'll get up there and I'll mess it up. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not reliable. Like, I'm just, I'm not, my skill set has so many holes here where I know I will never be able to do this perfectly.
Interesting.
But so then, driving to work that day, it was kind of just this moment of like, oh my goodness, this is what you want me to do.
Wow.
And I had been praying so much. I'm like, Lord, like, I trust you. Just tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do it. And when I saw, like, oh, this is it, I just cried.
Bold in the car.
I cried like the entire 20-minute drive to work. I was
No, because
so
that's
happy.
literally how it is. Like,
Yeah.
once you find that clarity and that peace, you're like, it's like a light bulb moment. It's like, oh my gosh.
And I'm sitting here, I'm bawling. I'm like, I can hardly play like a C major scale. And I'm like, but like if I'll put in all the work for you, Lord, for you,
Yeah.
Lord, I will do it.
Oh my gosh. That is so good, because like, obviously, because I'm like, there's people who can do music, who can play the piano or the organ, all the things, but they don't have the gift to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I know, and it drives me crazy. Someone will sit down and they'll just like play something way better than I could have, and I'm like, and you don't even care.
Like, they literally, it's like, this is their job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they get to do this, they get to travel, whatever, but they don't have the gift and they don't have the calling for it. And I feel like, even though you're like, I can't do this, I feel like you can. But I feel like you also have the gift for it and the talent for it. Because I'm like, you can hear people like sing or whatever, and they don't even, they're just doing this because it's going to give them money in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But it's a different thing to like do your job as your ministry and like as a gift the Lord has called you to do. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, like, when I think about people who are like in the right field, I think about you, because I'm like, no, she's exactly where she needs to be. Okay? Like, exactly where you need to be. And so I feel like that moment where you're like, this is what you want me to do. Was it like scary? Because you were like, I don't know how to do this yet, but like,
I feel like there was this moment of like, if this is what you want me to do, then I know you're going to give me the grace to do it. Right. And as daunting as it was, there was more of this, like, I can't wait to see how you're going to do this.
Yeah.
And, like, I was like, this is going to be so hard.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, if I get to suffer all of that with and for you,
yeah,
then bring it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you're, like, literally incredible. And now you're here, you're senior, like, you're graduating, so it's like, it was all worth it.
Well, except that, so we hit 2020 right at that point. So I was like, I'm going to do this. Like, the Lord is with me. Let's go. And then lockdown. Things just kind of fell on their face. Yeah. And it was, especially, I grew up going to daily mass with my family. And so to have, like, all of a sudden to not be able to go to mass at all was awful.
I bet.
And, like, the question of, like, I don't even know when I'm going to be able to go to mass again.
Were you in Lawrence?
No, I was in Topeka.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, like, just this pain where at least, like, I know most Pure Heart, the church was open for, like, a certain amount of people could come in and pray.
Yeah.
And so, at least, like, I was like, I can be before him. And so my family, we would do that usually on Sunday. So, maybe we can't go to mass, but we're going to dress and act like we're going to go to mass, and we're going to go to the church.
Yeah.
And we'll just be with him for that.
I like that.
That hour.
Yeah.
That tried me in so many ways. Just also to see, like, the pain within the church that was being brought out during that time. And
when I tell you the Lord was like, and the truth shall set you free.
Yeah.
Like, he was like, I am turning this ship upside down.
Yeah.
God, yeah.
Man, because, like, it brought out the best and the worst in people.
It did. And it tested us in a way that we weren't ready for, obviously.
No.
No. I remember, like, being in class, because 2020, I was a senior in high school. And I remember being in class, my last day, and us joking around, like, we'll come back tomorrow. I don't think this thing is bad. And then the next day, like, getting emails and phone calls, like, no, school is done. Like, you're not graduating. Like, you're going to graduate online. But, like, this is it. And, like, it just slowly started becoming this reality. Yeah. Like, we never expected, but slowly started to set in. Oh, shoot, this is real.
Yeah.
And, like, I can't imagine, like, the faith, because back then, like, I was in high school, like, my faith was different, not as strong as it is now. But I can't imagine being strong in your faith and that happening and having to, like, actually be tested. Like, your faith is tested. You're, like, you know, people are not working, so, like, finances and, like, health, people are dying. Like, I can't imagine.
And, yeah, just to have, like, to see not only, like, the priests and the laity, also, like, where you just had this pain of, like, you took everything from me.
Yeah.
and like the hesitancy to start masses again, where you're just sitting there and you're like, I would just sit there with the Lord, and especially because we were able to start doing parking lot masses on Holy Thursday.
Okay.
So we had Holy Thursday, we had Good Friday, but then they made more restrictions.
Yeah.
And so the fraternity parish was just like, we can't do Easter until we're clear about what we're allowed to do.
Yeah.
And man, like, talk about the worst Easter Sunday ever.
That morning was probably depressing.
Where I was like, I got the Mass, we got Holy Thursday, we got Good Friday, but no Easter.
This is like the worst important.
I know. And so, like, I remember, like, I cried for so much of Easter the next year, just because I was like, I felt like I've waited an entire year
to be here.
Just to be here.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And so, yeah, just like there's still so many things that I realized today that I have from it. And just to that I have to give them to the Lord and be like, I trust you.
Yeah.
I trust that you are guiding your church.
Yeah.
And as long as I put my trust in you, like, you will take care of me and of everybody else, and I don't need to fix it or solve it.
Yeah.
Like, I will just
got it. Yeah.
You tell me what you want, and I will do it, and the rest is up to you.
Yeah. Is that easy?
It's not easy. Well, it's not easy in the sense of so many times I find myself like, like, this priest, he always does A, B, and C wrong, and just, like, I find myself back there so many times, and so it's not so much that I struggle with what I get with that temptation. Like, I will end up there, but it becomes easier and easier over time to recognize when I'm there. That's the real thing of, like,
gotcha.
When have I crossed the line between, like, oh, I wish you would do this differently, but I trust that the Lord is telling you what He wants you to do. Yeah. And when I am, this is everything that's wrong with the church, like,
I need to do better.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just, like, casting stones.
It's so easy to do, though.
Yeah.
Like, I've recognized that in myself, but not towards the church, because I didn't grow up in like traditionalism as much as some people. Like, we just went to ordinary mass, prayed the rosary, and called it a day.
Yeah.
And so I'm it's now that I'm seeing how traditional Catholicism is, and actually that's a good thing. But yeah, like, I know people who definitely, like, are very like, that homily was not good, like, you could have done better, or like, I don't like that priest, I don't like this church or whatever. I know people like that.
Yes.
But I've never struggled with that particularly, but I've always struggled with judging, like, the people that actually go to mass. Like, I don't judge the priest or whatever. Yeah. But I judge the people who come to mass, like me. Yeah. And I find myself judging everyone in the pews and being like, you could have done better at, like, dressing today. You could have put on a dress that was a little bit longer than your knees. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I find myself doing that, and I have to, like, be like, okay, like, you don't know why that person is in their faith journey. You should just be glad that they're at mass. Yeah. Yeah. Like, that, if anything, is better than, like, judging them or condemning them. But yeah, I understand that, where it's like, obviously we want to, like, revere God and, like, give Him all the honor and, like, all the things, but I think, like, sometimes we fight for Him, like, we fight His battles, and He's like, I got it, actually. Yeah. No, thank you. I remember Father Mitchell one time was like, Jesus at some point was just like, I got it. Like, you don't need to fight for me. Yeah. I actually do got it. I know what I'm doing. I'm God. Hello. Is there, like, because you're in sacred music, is there a point in your life, or, like, sometimes where you're just, like, questioning if God did not call you to sacred music? Is there a point at some point where you're like, maybe I should have done this, maybe I should have done this? Like, are you one of those people that are like, nope, this is it? Or one of those people that are like, I have so much I want to do in this life, I feel like called to this and this and that I can't just focus on this? I don't know if that makes sense, but
no. So I would definitely say right now I'm exactly where I need to be.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know what the end goal is. I didn't know it on that Ash Wednesday.
Yeah.
Because I worked really hard. I practiced the organ. I was practicing for 8 hours a day for like almost 3 weeks leading up to my audition.
Yeah.
But then I got to my audition and I just like flamed. It was so bad.
Oh no.
And I remember the worst part was that one of the organ professors, he called my teacher and my sister and I think my uncle too, and told them that I hadn't gotten in before he told me.
Why would he do that?
My
Oh no.
sister kind of speculated. She really wanted me to do the music education route.
Okay.
But that involves so much, like you have to learn the basics to every single instrument.
Yeah.
And so you're basically learning to be like a band director.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, that is just not where my focus is. And so I remember I drove like right to a choir rehearsal right afterwards where, I was like, well, okay, first I went to adoration actually.
To cry out.
Well, I cried like the entire way there.
Yeah.
Just because also the entire experience had been so painful.
Yeah.
Because I kind of felt like they kept like shoving me into like corners to be like out of the way. And then all of a sudden, and I got, I'd never played on the organ up until like the night before I drove up to practice for 2 hours on it.
Yeah.
And then, but the day of, I got like 15 minutes on the organ before my audition.
Yeah.
And so I was so unfamiliar with the instrument. And there were just so many of these things where I was like, if this had been done differently, I could have done so much better.
Yeah.
And kind of just this feeling of like, I put in all of this work to get here. And then you kind of just...
It blew up.
I was kind of just like, okay, go here, go here, go here. And it just, like, I wasn't really, like, the work I put in to get there was not appreciated.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I think I'll just leave that there.
Yeah.
But so then because the worst thing is like the disappointment I feel is so much easier for me to handle than the disappointment to my friends and family that wanted to see me do well. And I was like, that's the worst part.
Yeah.
And where I can tell you that like I cried and was upset about the whole experience and just feeling like, I'd just been kind of told to sit here, and then expected to like do this perfectly.
Yeah.
And so I was upset about that, but then like I got to adoration and I was like, but I did it for you. And so
that just hit me, but I did it for you, Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so do with it what you will.
Yeah.
And so then I got my poor teacher. He knew before I did, and so he saw me. He knew that I didn't know.
Oh, the pain!
And it was just, one of those, like a very weird encounter where he was like, what did you do wrong? And I was like, that's not exactly what I wanted to talk about right after. But then I found out, and I was like, that poor man.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's crazy.
But I remember, like, I got off the phone call with the school where they're like, audition into voice. They're like, you've been singing for years.
Yeah.
Go into voice.
Okay.
And so I called my mom, I told her, and then I went to adoration again. And I was like, okay, I'm so lost and confused. I have no idea what to do. I need you to do it. I need you to do it. Just show me. Because otherwise I'm not going to be able to get anything done.
Right.
And he did. And I auditioned in school. They're like, they said you can get into the Bachelor of Arts program.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, I'll do that. And then they're like, well, you could, if you don't want to do the music education route, what you could do is just get a minor in education. So then, you have that in your back pocket for getting a job as a teacher, just to open up more possibilities. Yeah. I emailed, like, my teacher and, like, all, like, different organists that I knew, like, what do you think of this? And just different church musicians. And they're like, that sounds like the best option. Right. So that's what I ended up doing. But I also remember I was talking to my brother who that year he had joined the monastery. Okay. And so I was talking to him, and he was just like, Abby, I feel like this is the Lord, just because he knew that I kind of put discernment on hold after he had left, just because your brother joins a Carmelite monastery, your family is just kind of a wreck for a while. You're like, do we ever see you again? We didn't really know when he left, but then like we found out like, okay, we're still gonna get to see him for a while, but then there was constant fluctuation and change within that. It was there. I had to reach that point very quickly where I was like, no, I have to grieve my brother as though he died. And that is the only way.
We don't talk about that.
Yeah.
No, because I don't have, I don't have like close people in my life where like they left for the convent or whatever. But I've heard people have like I've heard parents being devastated. Obviously happy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because you're like, oh my gosh, this is great, but you also like, I'm letting them go forever. Like they're not mine anymore. God can do whatever He wants with them at this point. And it reminds me. Oh, this is a tangent, but it reminds me of a story I heard about Saint Padre Pio. He was, because like he could like be like, is that all? Because you do have some more stuff to say in confession. And I remember like I heard this story that there's this lady that kept coming back to him for confession, and one time he goes, is that all? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, that's not all. Go back and come back the next time. And she goes back and she comes back and he's like, that's not all. Go back. And so she kept doing that, and being like, what sin am I forgetting? So she goes back at a certain point and he's like, is that all? And she's like, at this point, yes, tell me what it is. Like, and so he reminded her of the fact that her son wanted to be a priest. And she said no. And he was like, you got in the way of the Lord using that man for a better good. And I don't know how she responded, but I would have sobbed in that confessional. Like, I would have been devastated. And so, but her pain, obviously, like, we don't know, like, what God could have used him for. Yeah. But I think the pain of letting your parents down is very much still alive in a lot of, like, young people's lives, because you're like, I don't want my parents to, like, be left alone, or, like, all this, when you feel called to it. Yeah. But I also know parents who are like, no, you're not gonna be a priest. I want grandkids. You're my only son. Things like that. Yeah. And so like I feel like sometimes people in our lives can get in the way of like us doing the things we should be doing actually. And so that's what that reminded me of like parents having to mourn their kids because they're gone. I mean, they're for the Lord now, and whenever you see them is when you see them. And if you don't see them, you don't get to question why, because they're gone. Like it's like they're dead basically. So. How old were you when that happened? I was 18. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's rough. I can imagine. It is a mourning. Yeah. That person. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because, like, there's... I was just recently reading C.S. Lewis's A Grief Observed. And one of my favorite lines that he has in there, he talks about, holding on to the pain and to keep yourself, like, in, like, when you're grieving someone, to hold on to the pain and not be able to let it go. He's like, you are keeping them dead. They will only ever be dead if you do that. Oh my gosh. And it's only when you let all of that go that you get to see them again. Yeah. That is a bar. Yeah. That is a bar. That is crazy. No, because like, even people are like, forgiveness is hard. Obviously, forgiveness is hard. But like, holding on to that pain, it's killing you. Yeah. It's not killing the other person. Like, the other person's thriving. Yeah. But it's, like, slowly killing you, and it's, like, this death that will never end until you let go. Yeah. So you can, like, live your life and be alive. But I've never thought about it like that. But it also reminds me of, like, when Jesus was telling Mary Magdalene to let him go. Like, let me go, because I'm alive now. I'm not dead anymore. Yeah. Yeah. Let me ascend to my Father, please. Yes. Once I was able to let him go, and then it opened the door for me to establish a new relationship with him. Where it's like, okay, so now I can't talk to you all the time, but I can write you letters. Right. And then every now and then I do get to talk to you on the phone. Yeah. And to see those all as graces and blessings, instead of letting it be that knife that continues to dig into me, to remind me that you're dead. Yeah, but you're not here anymore, and I'm alone. Yeah. That is good. And because he was in seminary for a couple years, and he dropped out because he wanted to be a Jesuit. But he and I would often talk about, like, discernment, and, like, just because, like, especially at that time, I was really exploring, like, okay, I might really be called to religious life. And that calling, like,
I was just talking about this with fatherhood recently,
Yeah.
where we're like, everybody, like, no one will look at that vocation and be like, that's bad. Like, everybody loves it. Like, someone's like, I'm going to be a priest. People are like, that's amazing. Like, you're like, I'm going to join this convent. That's beautiful. That's amazing. But nobody understands it.
Explain.
Where so many times, this is just hilarious because I love talking about it with people just to see like the different reactions.
Mm-hmm.
Where I've gotten some people that are like, oh, so are you discerning that because you're afraid no man will ever like you?
Oh my
Love
gosh.
you.
Oh my
No,
gosh.
and it's funny because then I'm like, no, because I know what's coming next is, the whole, like, you're beautiful, and that's, and I'm like, I know that.
Thank you. I'm aware.
I do know that,
Oh my god. That's a whole different episode.
Yeah.
That is crazy. No, but that is true. Like,
Mhm.
I, like, literally, when I was growing up, like, I know someone who became a nun, like, very young though, like, right out of high school, she went to the convent, became a nun. And I remember, like, so many people being like, that's, like, a waste of resources. She's so young. She's so, like, fertile.
Yeah.
She should not be having kids. And I'm like, you really think women are just out here to, like, have one vocation?
Mhm.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, that is crazy.
And it's especially hard when you're talking to, like, your friends or your family, and there is just like, why would you do that? And there's a lack of understanding of what this is.
Yeah.
And where it was one of the most beautiful things about my relationship with my brother was that we could both see each other there. And where there was this understanding of, like, I don't
Got it.
yeah, like, I don't fully understand where the Lord is taking me, but he's put this longing on my heart.
Yeah.
And I'm going to follow it to see where it goes.
Right. Yeah. So are you discerning religious?
Well, so this is funny. So I'm talking to him on the phone, and he's like, Abby, this just sounds like the Lord is closing this door, and he wants you to be a nun. And I was like, I feel like this would be running away.
If you become a nun?
Yeah, like,
girl,
right
same.
now. Yeah, I've been there. I've been there. I was like, I've worked up to this. I've, like, the burnout and the working, like, so much. Like, I pushed myself so hard to get here and to watch it all fail. That to, like, just turn around and be like, well, guess I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm like, that, there's no way because that would also mean that is all that the Lord wanted. That he placed this desire on my heart just to watch me fail. And I was like, that's not.
That does not sound like him. Yeah.
But I did also know he was like, you've put, like, discernment on hold. Like, you should reopen this door. So I was like, okay. Because there was one convent in particular that I was like, this is just, like, the perfect order. And everybody that I talked about it with was like, that is happy Werth. That is where, like, that's where you're called.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. And so I still had this hesitancy, but I was like, I'm going to explore this option.
Yeah.
And then during this time was the first time that I went up to go visit my brother in Wyoming, which is kind of talked about it more. And there was also a pain within that because got there and there was still, people are still in pain about the whole situation. I remember I had one good friend who, I remember when I first talked to him about my brother leaving, he was like, how are you taking it? And I was like, at that time I was like, it'll be hard around the holidays and, around big events, but other than that, it'll be fine. It'll be just like, he moved away. Yeah. And I started to see him as often. Yeah. And then, especially after Christmas, I just sat down with this friend and I was like, okay, does it ever get better? Because this sucks.
Yeah.
And it's not, like, I'm just stuck here in this pain because we're all hurting and we all went, like, our separate ways. And so then I was over here where I was, like, trying to, like, seek other people, like, my family members out, and I was like, we need to get through this together. But then I'm trying to make them do this, and then that's just inflicting more wounds on me, and it was just pointing out a lot where, like, again, like, this is bringing out the best and the worst in everybody.
Right.
And I was like, I need to learn to, pace myself and not throw myself and try and make something happen and control the situation. Whereas, like, I just have to let go.
Yeah.
And
let the Lord.
Yeah, let the Lord
Literally.
Let him heal me.
Yeah.
And let him take care of everybody else too.
Yeah.
And so, but then going up to visit, I just saw, like, I could tell some siblings were, like, they would probably come up again, like a couple years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a painful contrast to me because I was like, I want to be here as much as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yes, being here hurts because it points out this reality.
Yeah.
But this is my brother.
Yeah.
And
you're leaving him behind.
Yeah. And I'm not just gonna forget about him. I'm not that anyone in my family would do that.
Yeah.
But just like, I'm going to face whatever pain is in the road ahead of me to continue and have this relationship with him.
Mm-hmm.
And like, because I remember after he told my family that he was going to join this order, I was like, you realize that now I can't be a Carmelite. Because then I never get to see you again.
Yeah.
And he was like,
literally.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
You only see each other in heaven.
Yeah. And he was like, Abby, we can be the Saint Benedict and the Saint Scholastica of the Carmelites. And I was like,
I love
they
that.
were twins.
I know.
I was like,
oh, they're my favorite. Sometimes I'm afraid to say Scholastica, and I'll be like, you're a twin, I'm a twin. I need you to help my brother out.
Yep.
Okay. Like,
you know, every time I read like the passage about her praying for the storm, and
oh my gosh, yeah.
St. Benedict looks at her, he's like, what did you do? And she's like, you wouldn't listen to me, so I talked to the Lord, and he did listen.
The family that God gives you, you can't choose, so you know, like, there's tension there, but I'm also like, God gives you people that you need. They might not be the best people, but they will grow you. They'll be the same, like, people that will lead you to a path of like, I need to go to therapy. I need to do all these things because this person brings out the worst in me. But it's like exactly what the Lord wants, so that you can see the areas in your life where you're like, I need to do better. Yeah. I need to do better because whatever she got going on is bringing out this part of me that I never knew existed. Yeah. I was like, Lord, I think you might actually be calling me to this and to like stay. And he kind of just went through all the different things that I would be giving up for the rest of my life. And part of it was just like, you have these siblings that have never really known you and never made like the effort to know you. And this is not going to change that. Jesus Christ. I mean, he just called you out. You know, like, he was just like, this is a reality. Yeah, where it was like, you are going to follow me, and you just have to trust me with all of it. And it's like, you can't grasp anymore. Yeah. You can't try and make people into something that they won't be. And that is so good. I was like, okay, like, I see the pain that this is going to cause me and my family. And yet it is for you. And I trust you there. Yeah. And I will follow you if this is your will. Right. And I remember I walked out and it was snowing. And this would have been in March. And I think it was March 18th of 22. And just huge snowflakes. It was beautiful. And I took like a longer route home down country roads just to enjoy the beauty around me. Yeah. And I stopped to make a left-hand turn, and the person behind me didn't, and plowed into the back of my car going over 50 miles an hour. My airbags didn't go off, and I was totally fine, like a little sore the next day. What? Which, like, later in hindsight, I was like, Lord, if that was your version of no, it really fell on deaf ears. No, I didn't hear it. Yeah. I didn't see it. I didn't hear it. Yeah. But it was crazy. Like, we took it to, like, a mechanic afterwards, and, you know, he was talking to us, then he, like, saw underneath the car, and he was like, I'm so sorry, did someone die in this accident? Like, is everyone okay? And I'm like, I'm actually totally fine. The Lord sent the Lord. So I was like, so clear, and I'm talking to the good Lord, I was like, so I see you want me here. Yeah. Yeah. You're like, Abby, at any point, if I wanted you back with me, I could take you. And because then even 4 weeks later, I was test driving a car, and I was driving it on the freeway, and I took it to one of our mechanics to have him look at it, and within like the 10 yards that he had to drive it,
to look at it, the brake line snapped.
Wow.
And so I was like, okay, I'm seeing very clearly.
You're like, no.
Like, you were also, like, the main thing I was like, no. I could have died on these multiple occasions. And what you were telling me is that there's, like, you have created me for something.
Yeah.
And you want to do some good thing through me.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not just a waste of space.
Right.
Amidst, like, all of my failures and everything that I keep getting wrong and things blowing up in my face.
And like, sometimes there's this thought that people are like, if you didn't do this, or if you do this, it gets in the way of God doing this in your life. And I'm like, but he already knew that I was going to do that. In my stupidity, I did not. But he did, because he's like omnipotent and like above time, all those things. He knows that like whatever is going to happen, or whatever, you know, you want it to happen, it will all lead to his greater good.
Yeah.
It's like, I know you want this, but I know exactly where that's going to lead you, but this is my perfect will. And so, like, yeah, living in that. And it's crazy because it's good that you're obedient to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because some of us, me included, I see all the signs and ways you're like, but I want what I want. And I feel like, especially when it's connected to pain and grief, it's like, no, but I feel like I should be doing this. And I saw this quote the other day that was like, maybe it's hard for you to hear God because you've already decided what you want him to say.
Yeah.
And so, like, thinking about that, you're like, okay, I actually should pay attention to the signs and the brake line snapping. Like, yeah, it's good that you're obedient to that.
Yeah. Which most of this I didn't see until afterwards.
Yeah.
I was just like, I don't know what's going on. My life is such
just
chaos.
and
Yeah, where I'm like, so I failed to get into the school I wanted to. Yeah. And then I almost died twice. So I filled out this application and everything, and I sent it in, and I didn't tell any of my siblings, or I didn't tell like siblings or friends, but I did tell my parents, just because I was like, you do need to know that, like, I am pretty sure that I'm going to go and visit this convent, and that I'm going to end up joining them, because my sister was getting married that year. I was like, I'm probably going to end up joining. Yeah. After her wedding. Yeah. And so, okay. Like,
they're like, okay, we're losing a
yeah, that was the main reaction. But then, so if you go to visit or join a convent, or it's the same thing if you're trying to go to seminary, you get like this super extensive questionnaire that is like, yes, I'm Catholic. No, I'm not crazy. But you have to fill out like your family's mental health history.
Yeah. If
like,
you're in debt.
Yeah, if I'm in debt. Are you coming from a broken home? Like we need to know all of it to make sure. Yeah. This is going to be the right move for decision. You. Yeah. And so I sent it all in, and they got back to me, and they're like, we don't feel like we'll be a good fit for you, because on the section for anxiety and depression, you put that you weren't diagnosed with anything.
You are not diagnosed with anything? Okay.
And I was like, oh, you can see the confusion, because what I meant was, I feel human emotions.
That's hilarious.
But again, like, it's funny because I just remember filling out that entire questionnaire and just being like the struggle of like, am I lying about myself filling this out? Because they're like, what are your strengths? I was like, what are my strengths? Do I really know what those are? And but yeah, it was. So then they're like, this is not a good fit for you. And the same day that I got that email, I met Ann Pham.
I love her.
And now we've been living together for 2 years.
But that literally led you to Ann.
Oh, yeah. And so then, like, starting at KU, I was like, okay, I've given you every other option. Like,
to give me a sign, to, like, put me into this position and just
and this is where you had led me. So I'm like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Now, do I know what I'm going to be doing next fall? No.
Most of us feel that way, though.
Yeah. I was like, it could be anything.
Yeah. I was in that same boat when I came back to the church. I was like, okay, like, we're living for God now, because COVID, like, also messed up my life. Literally flipped all the family secrets, like, upside down. Yeah. It was a lot. And when I came back to the church, I was like, okay, I'm living for God. Like, I'm giving up all these things. I gave up everything. I deleted social media. I cut off my old friends. I started fresh. I was like, no one knows me here. Like, this is a good opportunity for me to actually know the Lord and grow in faith or whatever. And so in that, I was like, I started feeling more connected to God. So naturally, I was like, maybe I should become a nun.
Yeah.
This would be good.
Yeah.
And I didn't recognize that was just my love for God, though. It was not because He's calling me to be a nun, but and I felt very called to it. And I felt like even one time being in prayer, I felt like this voice that was like, I want you to become a nun. But it was against my state in life at that time.
Yeah.
But also because I didn't know like how to discern. I was like, maybe this is God. Like I felt anxious, but I was like, maybe it's because this is God and like, you know, He's omnipotent, so obviously I'm gonna feel anxious. You know, all these things that actually are not God.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so but I was like, okay, this must be God, like I'm gonna pursue this. And the more I prayed about it, the more I felt convicted to like actually be a nun. So I'm finally getting okay with that idea. I'm finally being like, okay, this would be beautiful. I start like looking up convents, you know, all these orders, and I find that Sisters of Life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this like they I think their mission connected more to my heart than anyone else, and that habit is really good.
Yep.
And so I was like, okay, like I'm gonna go to New York and like actually talk to them, and because I didn't want to like do it online. I was like, I've been online for the past 2 years. I'm over it.
Yeah.
I want to be in person. Right before I set up that like plane ticket and the interview, whatever, I met Sister Elena. I don't know if you ever met her, but she was a sister here, and she becomes my spiritual director. And I tell her about this, and she's like, how about we take a step back and actually discern if this is what God is calling you to? And I was like, what do you mean? I already discerned. Like, this is it. Like, this is what God is calling me to, everything. And let's just say, now looking back, there was a lot of loopholes in that story. And I'm glad she was there to be like, no, that is not God. But I was so convinced that it was Him. And also recognize that, like, my own trauma and my own wounds and my own, like, stuff that happened is convincing me that, like, being a nun is better than marriage because dating? No, thank you. Men? No, thank you. Like, I had all these ideas about marriage, about dating, about men, about kids, about, like, all these things that were intimidating for me. So I was like, is your option, actually, is to go hide. Yeah. Let's go hide and be a nun and just live in the convent, you know. But I'm so glad I didn't do it because now I'm like, I wouldn't be here. Like, I would have probably made that mistake and probably I would not have been accepted, obviously. But I think I was chasing it for a long time and the Lord just kept being like, no. No. Through people, through my life, through my family, through my dad being like, let's get a college education first. Let's do that and then we'll think about this. And I'm so glad he said that because now I'm like, thank the Lord for parents who actually like they know the faith, but they also know you so well to be like, no, this is not the move. Yeah. But the redirection sometimes feel like a whirlwind. Yeah. Like, what am I doing? Like your life kind of blows up and you're like, I thought that was it and now it's not it. So what am I doing? Yes. So I feel that because that was me. Like I had to redirect. I had to actually go to college and be like, what am I doing with my life? Yeah. Like I don't even know what major. I don't know what I want to do. Like this was it, and now I'm back to zero, square one. So I feel that, but like that is inspiring because I just keep going back to like you would not have met Anne. Yeah. If that didn't happen. Yeah. And she's like one of the most amazing people ever. Like, is there like looking back at yourself back then to like 18-year-old Abby? What do you think right now she would say to you? Like, if she saw you living your life right now, what would she say?
She'd probably be mad and upset.
Yeah? Why?
Just because I know for me, I just wanted to be married or in a convent as soon as possible.
You're like, I don't want in between.
Yeah. I was like, yes, I love these things, but I don't think I'll do any of them for the rest of my life.
Right. There's obviously a big application. Yeah.
And so, especially if she like got to see in the future and was like, so we're 22. Yeah. Or I'm 21, I guess. Yeah. We're not in a convent. We still have never dated anybody really. Yeah. What are we doing?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
It's like, girl, get to it. Yeah. That is so funny. Okay. So she would be like questioning what you're doing with her life.
Yeah. She would be like, you mean that I have to sit in this miserable state
in this season that's never ending? Yeah.
What, 3-4 years ahead of me?
Yeah. I have so many friends who are like, I've never dated anybody, and like, I feel like I'm called to marriage, but like, how do I know I'm called to marriage if I've never dated anybody? And there's just like, it's just a lot. First of all, the dating scene out here is ghetto.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it is. Listen, Jesus, if you're listening, of course you are. Fix it, Lord. Fix it. A lot of us, I think, relate to that though, where it's like, I feel called to marriage or I feel called to dating right now.
Mhm.
It might not even be a vocation, but I think it's healthy to experience what it's like because it helps you discern,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of people our age are in that. Dating is fun, but also it's not really. It doesn't seem like that's where I want to be right now.
Mhm.
But I also want it. I want to get married and have kids. But also, it's like this constant state of like thinking about it and then not thinking about it, and then
Yeah.
watching people get married and then be like, okay, I am gonna start thinking about it. But then it's like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Let me just say that.
It's funny because I'm so bad at living in the present, in the
Mhm.
present moment.
Yeah.
And
same.
so often the Lord is just like, Abby, what do you want right now?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I actually don't want anything.
Mm-hmm.
I actually am content with you
Yeah.
right now. But I'm afraid when I'm looking into the future and all these possibilities, and then there's so much unknown,
Yeah.
and I don't know. There's so much more room for doubt and just fear. Like, yes, you're enough right now, but I'm in so much pain here right now. Like, and I've been in this pain. Is it ever going to go away? Is it ever going to get better? Am I looking at living like this for the rest of my life? Yeah.
It's the present time lie where the enemy's like, look at what everyone else is doing.
Mhm.
You're not doing that.
Yeah.
Look at so and so. This was supposed to be our vision right now, and we're not there yet. What are we doing?
Yeah.
It's like this cycle of like time is such a weird concept. Like it's such a weird concept because every time I think about it, I'm like, what am I doing? Because God has perfect timing, obviously.
Yeah.
But then when we think about our own timing, it's like, actually, Jesus, you're late.
Mhm.
You're like 3 years late.
And he's like, if you only knew. Yeah, and then the pattern that I always realize is that why am I not good enough now?
And like, what's wrong with me
Now.
right now that you can't?
Yeah.
And just to have him be there and say, no, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
And I love you where you're at right now.
Yeah.
And I want to invite you into life with me right now.
Yeah. The last question. Something you're grateful for. Like something right now in the present moment that you're grateful for that back then you like thought is like the worst thing ever.
It's a good question. Probably my weakness and my smallness.
Like naturally or like
Yeah.
spiritually?
Like my total and utter need for God.
Yeah.
Where before I was like, I should just be better. And I should I grew up Catholic. I had this amazing Catholic family.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you have given me so many graces, and I'm just wasting them all because I'm out here and I'm still sinning, and I'm still failing to trust you, and I'm still so broken.
Yeah.
And where now I look at that and I'm like, oh my goodness, all of these wounds, I view them more as kisses now.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, these, like, every suffering and everything, like, thank you so much. Yeah. And I just, like, I would just sit in awe before him all the time. Where usually, like, especially on a day where it takes him some work just to get me to admit that I'm not having a good day.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
He's like, no.
Let's actually talk about it.
Yeah, this hurt, and that's okay. Let's go through it.
So good.
And just, like, once I get through it, I'm like, okay, no, these are, like, the actual wounds that are on my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And especially, like, this Lent, it has been like, okay, I'm taking the lies. It's like, Lord, you get the lies, you get everything that I've ever believed on what the enemy or anyone else has said about my identity, but I'm keeping the wounds because
they lead me to you.
They lead me to you.
And it's, that is so good. Even me being in psychology in this field, obviously it hurts.
Mhm.
It's painful. It's like you get to see people at their lowest point every day. But then I'm like, imagine the gift of healing. Like the gift that we get to invite the Lord into our pain. And then he's like, you want to see my pain? And then you get to share that moment. It's like, I don't care what intimacy is. That is like the definition of intimacy with God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is beautiful.
Because I remember I was like, I was getting ready for Christmas Mass. It was like midnight Mass. And I just had a lot that was going on. And I was sitting there with the Lord, and I was like, I want to be happy for you. And I want to enter into this mystery with joy for you.
Yeah.
But I'm so broken here, and I need you to see me here, because I was like, I keep forgiving and forgiving.
Yeah.
And yet I keep getting inflicted with more and more wounds. And he just looked at me and he said, I'm so proud of you.
And that's probably what you needed to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said, because I have fashioned your heart to look like mine.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. I was like, then to just go and celebrate the Mass.
Mm-hmm.
And in like the midnight Mass of all Masses. And just to be like,
yeah. It's so
like
nice.
you, like already I'm uniting. I get the chance to unite my pain with yours and recognize the fact that like you came to
For
save
me.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I could talk to you all day. We could do 6 episodes in one day. Oh, that is so good. You're such a gift, and I'm so glad you did this with me. I just realized I didn't even introduce you. We just went straight into this.
Yeah.
So, anyways, thank you guys for watching. This is Abby, and I'm so glad she's here. Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode, or Spotify if you listen audio. Anyways, have a great day, guys. Bye.